mind asking? Can they hear us or not yet?
Yes, we can hear you right now. I just unmuted you.
John Elder, can you hear us? Lost Jose. No.
So we have 5 now.
I'm just wondering if they can hear us. Would you please reply, John, if you can hear us?
Yes, Pat is on.
She is on. You want to ask Pat?
I'm going to ask them all.
You want me to ask Mr. Allen?
I can't hear him. Well, he can't hear us. I don't know if he can hear us or not.
I'll tell him to say hello.
Yeah, I want him to reply so that we can start the meeting. The picture's there, but they can't hear us. Joe Limon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Pat Ramirez, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Ms. Pat. John Elder, can you hear us? Okay, so we're short still.
He's muted.
Oh, we have 4.
So we need 5. So we need 5 for a quorum, and John's there on the, or was on the screen.
He is on the screen.
He's still there, just we can hear us.
But he has not replied. Did you call? Calling John?
Blanco Topete just joined.
Okay.
No, she's over there.
Ms. Blanca Topete, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
We have,
okay. Well, we do have a quorum. Let the record so indicate.
4.5, 5.5.
We're starting our meeting at 2:03. I do not see Melodia Salaices there. I know we are trying to get John Elder audio working, correct?
He's currently muted. He just, John Elder just unmuted himself.
Okay.
Ask.
So can he hear us? John Elder, can you hear us? Well, we can't see a picture of him, so I can't tell. If he could have raised his hand, with a picture, then I would be able to tell. But when it's just the name or iPhone, it's impossible.
I see his picture, but it's frozen.
Oh, we don't even see his picture.
Oh, he just moved.
So we have Melodia as well.
Is that Melodia?
I believe so.
Is that Melodia? Okay, let the record so show at 2:04. Melodia Salaices, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Miss? God bless you.
She can.
Yeah, there she is.
Miss Melodia Salaices, can you hear us?
I hear you now. You were frozen for a little bit,
Thank you. God bless you.
but I can hear you.
Thank you.
I can hear anything going on over there. All my buttons on it.
There's John Elder. Very great. All right.
Pretty much except for Kathy Becker.
So, yeah, everyone except for Kathy Becker is on. So let's call our meeting to order. Let the record so indicate all those that are present and that Kathy Becker is not with us at the moment. It is a rainy day out there, so perhaps that's the reason for her. If you all will bow your heads with me, I'm going to go ahead and lead with the invocation, followed by Fred Sanchez leading us in the pledges of allegiance. bow your heads with me. And we'll start off with a moment of silence for all those educators that have suffered from COVID-19 and are no longer with us. Thank you. And I'd like to add another a moment of silence for Charlie Hart, who served on our board and is also no longer with us. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come before you this afternoon, thanking you for an awesome day, Lord, that you supply this rain, for we certainly needed it around this region. And we give you thanks for it, Lord. And we ask, Lord God, for your guidance, for your presence here with us today, and certainly for those that are joining us virtually. And Lord God, that you give us wisdom, understanding, and discernment in all the things that we're going to deliberate upon this agenda. And then, Lord God, that the things that we do that are pleasant to you, we pray in our decision making. And so, Lord God, we thank you and we come before you always in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands,
of the nation
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting virtually, and those of you who are here in person. We appreciate your presence here today. And just for the record, I'd like to read a statement that we generally read to just give information to those who may be tuning in. The board received a packet of information last week related to topics on today's agenda. Each board member has had opportunity to review the information prior to the meeting. It is the policy of the board that if members of the audience wish to address the board, they must sign the form at the entrance. Commentaries and/or questions are limited to the public forum section of the said agenda as is provided for in board policy. Do we have anyone who's? Do we have anyone who has signed up to address the board? No, sir. So we are now in open forum. There's an item on our agenda that says board recognition. I'll turn it over to Dr. Aguirre.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, board members. I want to just start off by saying this is your month, but actually every month of the year is your month. We appreciate your support and of course your time, because you do volunteer your time to be with us. And as always, we do have a little something for you all that I really believe you'll enjoy. But we're gonna table that for now until the executive director report, so it'll best fit the process, and it also gives any board members, Kathy in this case, to join us if she is still going to join us, and we can all celebrate together. But just know that we are focusing and dedicating this portion of the meeting as well as the meeting in general to you all on behalf of our staff and employees of Region 19. So again, thank you all for what you do, but we'll talk more about that later on during the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. I would like to then move to action item I-9, which is a discussion and possible action to name the ESC Region 19 Conference Center. Are we ready for that?
Yes.
That's the purpose for our 2:00 start.
Yes. Yes, we are ready, and I want to start off by saying that all your suggestions were taken into account, and so we asked Angie Otto to kind of take that charge and work with it and pull the pulling of our staff as well as gathering the information. It's been interesting, it's been fun, because I think it should
I
be
can't
fun.
hear anything.
You can't hear us? You can't hear me, I should say? Can you hear me now?
John?
Board members, can you all hear me?
I can.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'll try to keep my voice at a higher level so that you all can hear me. As I was saying, we've asked Angie Otto to take the lead on putting together the recommendation to us to have,
Yeah, I can.
is it breaking up?
It is.
Uh, Okay, well, maybe that microphone will work better, so I'll stop talking and I'm gonna turn it over to Angie so we can get the process going, and then we'll go from there.
Mr. Sobolewski, Dr. Aguilar, members of the board. Thank you for bringing this item up for discussion once again, and from our meeting before the holidays. As you recall, Jose, can you bring up slide number 1? We sent out a survey to the staff with the top 15 names that came up from actually staff suggestions, so that we can poll and take a vote as to their preferences. And right there, what you see is the average of what people voted for in these 15. I'm not sure if everybody can see what's on the screen, but the top 3 names, when you take the weighted average.
One second, is there a way to get the echo removed?
Maybe it's not. Testing. Is that better?
Much better.
So it's the 3 that you see underlined in blue on the screen. So we have the Airway Convention Center, El Paso Strong Memorial Building, and ESC Event Center, the top 3 that came on the as the highest, ranked the highest in terms of weighted average. Jose, can you go on to the next slide, please? When you consider the choices, we asked the staff to select 5 choices. The ones that you see highlighted in yellow, again, are the top 3, but also 4th and 5th choice in terms of popularity amongst the staff. But I also wanted to make a note of the data that is in blue. So those are all the names from the 15 names that have to do with STAR, that contain STAR. And actually, if you look at just those percentages, the staff really kind of weighed in more towards those names than others. So that's kind of the pattern that I wanted to bring up, that the percentages tend to be higher, even though you have those in yellow, they tend to be higher for the names that have STAR in them. So with that being said, we wanted to bring that up for discussion as to the appropriateness of the top choices, but also what was chosen in terms of popularity in other categories.
Thank you for that, Angie. One of the things that stood out, one is that if you took the blue suggestions and you compiled those, all of a sudden that would kind of go to the forefront in terms of popularity. So the idea of having the name of STAR in it definitely is a big, whether it be stellar, whether it be starry, whether it be, it's something that when seen in isolation, it seems less, but when you put them together, then there's something there. But the other thing that I wanted to share as a suggestion up front, because the more I've thought of this, the more it tells me or makes sense to me that this is an opportunity also to promote our service center. And so much like other organizations, if we just call it by a name, a standalone name, then that becomes the name. But if 19 or ESC is in there, then all of a sudden it's an opportunity to promote ourselves. So it's kind of like a marketing or a promotion. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as a suggestion that we, if in fact we want to combine both pieces, then it almost helps us promote ourselves, but it also gives our building a name that's kind of standalone. The example that I came up with when I was talking to the directors is I used ESC 19 Head Start as an example. So we have our Head Start program, but we say ESC 19 Head Start because that's what it is. So when we think of our building, to me, it would be helpful for us as an organization to be able to say ESC 19 or something ESC 19, or just kind of throwing that idea out there so that as you think or help us come up with that one name, that we don't forget an opportunity to promote ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be on the side of the building. And if we put that, or if people utilize our building wherever they're coming from, therein lies the idea of using ESC 19. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, because I think sometimes we, maybe there's another reason why we shouldn't do that, but I just wanted to kind of plant that seed.
If I may, Mr. Zablowski, I do agree with what you're saying, Dr. Aguirre. And from looking at the data that is being shown on the screen, I would like to make a suggestion, if I may, or I'm not sure if we're ready for that.
Who's speaking?
This is Blanca.
Okay, yeah, go right ahead.
I was thinking that we could possibly name it the ESC 19 Stellar Conference Center.
And if we're offering suggestions, this is Melodia, and I completely agree with your comment about really branding this as a center that is part of the ESC Region 19 organization. So it's as simple as ESC 19 Convention and Performing Arts Center.
Is that your recommendation in performing?
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
This is Pat. And my suggestion is to just keep it simple with branding it ESC 19 Event Center.
This is Jolie Mott, and I agree with Pat.
Okay. Any further commentary?
From the board, right?
Yeah, from the board. I mean, I think the employees had commentary, right?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else on the board? Now we have two for keeping it simple. And I certainly don't have any objection to keeping it simple. I don't know if there's any, I mean, that kind of meets what you're, and as long as we're good with the being able to use it for marketing, I have no objection with that. Anyone else have any comments?
Are we taking this up to a vote with additional employees, or are we making a decision on the names today?
Well, we have it as an action item. We have had input from the employees based on what you see before you. So it's really at the pleasure of the board. If the board does not want to make a decision today, I mean, what it would require for us to make a decision, for example, on that particular one that Pat Ramirez mentioned, if she would put it in the form of a motion, we would vote on it, or whatever you mentioned, Ms. Elises, or Ms. Topete, either way. But
Ms. Pat, if you'd make a motion, I'd gladly second it, and I think you've got a couple of votes.
Thank you. Yes, I will make a motion to go ahead and name it ESC 19 Event Center.
Second by Melodia.
And a second by Melodia. Any further discussion? Dr. Guido?
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that we're good also with events, because as you have events, and then you have conference, and then you have anything else. As long as we've kind of, we're good as a group, or you all are good with a group with events, and that was just the only, because that of course then becomes the.
Would you like to recommend that we add conference, events and conference, or conference and events? What is?
I would like to recommend that we add conference because I thought we were building a conference center.
And this was Pat or who?
This is Blanca.
Blanca, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, this is Joe Limon. That's why I asked the question in the beginning, whether it was going to be an event center, a conference center, or a convention center. An event can encompass any event. It could be a conference, it could be a convention, it could be whatever. So that's my thinking.
Your point is that it doesn't matter as long as, I mean, the name as proposed events is sufficient. Is that your comment? Am I reading you right?
Yes, I don't think you need both conference and event center. I think just one word that will convey to everybody, this is what it is.
Any further discussion?
I would like to say that I think conference needs to be on there. ESC Conference Center.
Mr. Chair, I think I agree with John, Mr. Elder.
Okay, so.
This is Pat, and I'm fine with ESC 19 Conference Center.
Dr. Aguirre, any recommendation? I mean, again, it's the marketing piece is what's imperative.
And
the name, what's in the name? Well, we were like, I agree with everyone that it's our chance to say this is ESC 19, and our brand is going to be up there all the time. And so I think that's exactly what it should. And so the question is, would conference center more encompass what we do around here? We have a lot of conferences from the different programs and so forth. Events might turn out to be someone who rents it out for an event, whatever it might be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not to.
I agree. What the name encompass the ESC star?
Could you repeat that, Mr. Limon?
Yes. You know how the star that we use on our logos?
Encompass our
Could
star.
that be either at the beginning or at the end of the ESC 19?
Star.
The actual star, like within the actual logo?
Yes. Yes.
We have it, we have it now on the pins we wear. So I would assume we're not going to remove the star from there. So I would assume that it does have it. So
Just a thought.
this one doesn't have it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has the star.
Yeah, but it has the star itself, but it doesn't have the 19 around it like our button, but whatever the case might be.
So again, and I mean, I know there's a vote on the table right now, but again, we're discussing, so I just, not to muddy the waters, but when the idea of events / and/or conference, I'm just curious which one, and the question was asked, which one would be more marketable? And the other is, because we are gonna rent it for other opportunities to include the possibility of our local high schools, proms, would events be then more appropriate for them? And so I just kind of, again, I didn't mean to muddy the waters. I just was hoping to have discussion. And that's all.
And we are.
This is Melody. I'm going to add to the muddy waters, but really conferences are encompassed into the umbrella of events. So, and events is more of a it can be more of a branding, and it's easier for us to promote the center as an all-encompassing event, whether it's an event, a conference event, a concert event, a high school event, etc. So I believe it just offers us more opportunities to promote it and to just cover any type of event that might be available to this community.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
I agree.
And
So what is it?
so your recommendation would be to leave it, the ESC 19 Events Center, right? Is that
Is it
correct?
event as in single or events as in plural events center? Because it's difficult to say events center versus event center. Just easier on the tongue.
Whatever is the recommendation now, Pat has a motion and you second it, so Pat, if you would amend your motion and Ms. Melodia, if you would second that motion, then I think we're ready to close discussion and go ahead and vote. Ms. Pat?
Aye.
No,
Okay, so you amend your motion for it to say, and please give the title.
It will be ESC 19 Event Center.
Okay, so there's a motion, Ms. Melodia, would you accept that as well? Would you second that amended motion?
Yes, second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is any discussion, buddy, have an absolute final discussion? There,
well,
Mr. Sanchez.
okay, I make a motion that we,
Well, we have a
Do
motion.
ESC.
We have a motion. and
We
a
have a motion already.
We could discuss and then.
You have
we can
discussion.
amend it.
okay, I personally, and this is because it's our center, and we're trying to brand it out to the public. I still say that ESC 19 Conference Center. ESC 19 Conference Center. I think that's what Mr. Elder had proposed earlier. And I don't know, to me, I just don't like the word events.
Yeah, it's not
It's
plural,
only for
it's not plural,
discussion.
right? So then, yeah, so any other discussion? So the motion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Pat and Ms. Melodia, the title would be, or the name would be the ESC 19 Event Center, correct?
I would like to have some more discussion if permitted. Mr.
I would
Zablowski.
too.
Well, we can vote, and if we vote it down, then we can have more discussion, but
Or you can have discussion now, David.
sure we can, but I'm just saying that we've had this motion, we've amended it. It's getting really difficult to track from the Roberts rules about exactly where we are with the voting. And so that's why, I mean, we could certainly have more discussion, but if it hasn't been said already, if it's already been said, then we're repeating the very same comments. But who wanted to comment? Was that Ms. Blanca?
Yes, sir. I would also like to keep the word conference center on there, just because to me it just seems more of a professional name for the type of events that we will be having. An event center, for me, what comes to mind is more of like a ballroom or a hall. So to me, the word conference just brings more professionalism to the name. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else have an additional comment?
Let's vote on the standing. This is John Elder. Let's vote on the standing motion, and if it passes, fine, but if it doesn't, then we come back and rediscuss it. Now I'm going to vote no.
So I'm going to go ahead and then poll the board. And Mr. Elder's already voted no. Start over, Mr. Sanchez.
No,
No. Mr. Limon. Mr. Limon.
It's ESC 19 Event Center.
Yes, sir.
That's the motion.
motion.
I vote yes.
Ms. Melodia,
Yes.
Ms. Pat,
Yes.
Ms. Blanca,
No.
and I vote no. So the motion fails. So it's up for discussion again. ESC 19 was the suggestion, somebody who suggested that we add a conference and event center. I open up the floor for discussion.
make a motion that we name it ESC 19 Conference Center. ESC 19.
I would like to second the motion.
I would like to add something on that before we get started.
We have a motion and from Fred Sanchez that it be the ESC 19 Conference Center. And it was seconded by Blanca Topete, am I correct?
That's
Blanca?
correct.
Okay. So now we open it for discussion. John?
How many people in the great unwashed public of El Paso knows what ESC stands for? We could say Region 19 Conference Center. Just think about it. ESC, we know what it means, but the vast majority of the people in El Paso don't know what ESC stands for.
For that matter, I don't think they would know what 19 is either.
No, Region
Region
19.
They wouldn't know Region 19 either.
So we have a comment.
I feel like John Elder's comment is valid because this would include all of our school districts that could be using this conference center space. They would know they would know what Region 19 is.
Mhm.
And if the point is to have it available, I agree, John, great point, to have it available to our schools and our school districts along, if we have a huge event that is a potential for El Paso, I'm sure our El Paso tourism will be able to offer up the Region 19, and I would offer Conference and Event Center as a name to anybody who's interested in utilizing that that building.
Do have a motion and a second. The ESC 19 Conference Center, right?
Mr. Chair, I'll reconsider it and I'm in agreement with Mr. Elder. Region 19 Conference Center.
That's if you want to amend your motion to read the Region 19 Conference Center.
Instead of ESC 19.
Okay, Miss Blanca, would you second that? You were the second on the previous motion.
Yes, sir. I'll second that.
Okay, so that's our amended motion, the Region 19 Conference Center. Any further discussion? I'm going to poll the board. Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Elder,
Aye.
Mr. Limon,
Aye.
Ms. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Salaisis,
No, only because I feel we're missing the event portion of it.
Ms. Blanca,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. That's the name that we. The Region 19 Conference Center. Yay. Well, we can't say it wasn't discussed. That's the most motions we've ever made. That's in my 21 years here.
That's the first motion I've ever seen voted down or split on the vote
That's right. That's
in
correct.
20 some odd years.
That's right.
We're starting the year correctly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much for all the work you did. And let the staff know that we did consider their options and everything. But I think Mr. Zaleski said it. It's a prerogative of the board, and I really think it will sell Region 19, and then everybody will know, it's Region 19. It's been in the news lately, Region 19 with the Covet that's going around. So I think people are starting to recognize the name and knowing who we are. So, but thank you for all the hard work you did and everybody else that was with you. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
So if I got it correctly, it's the Education Service Center, Region 19 Conference and Event Center. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay, no, thank you all very much for your input. I think the idea of Region 19 fits. I mean, I will say, this is not discussion, just giving you guys a little insight. When we said Education Service Center, of course, we're promoting ourselves, but the point was well made that this isn't just ours, it's the regions. And it does then encompass all our districts to include our community. So when we say region, we're referring to El Paso and Hudson counties. So I think that was a valid point, and thank you for making that change. I think it'll work for us. Thank you.
Words from Mr. Elder.
Elder statesman. Okay, so we move then to our consent agenda, which is item F. And it's consideration and possible approval of minutes of regular Board of Directors meeting of 12/17/2020. And the second item is consideration and possible ratification before budget amendments. I would like to pull item number 1, which is the minutes, as Ms. Pat pointed out some errors in our minutes.
Mr. Chair, I also would like to pull number 2.
Okay, so we're going to pull both of those. We will not have a consent agenda. We'll be voting on both of those items individually. So here, regarding item 1, consideration and possible approval of minutes of regular Board of Directors meetings of 12/17/2020. I don't know if you all can follow along in the minutes that are there, but you will see when it's on the call to order, it listed Pat Ramirez as the chairman of the board, and of course it should say David Sublaski, and Ms. Pat is the one who caught these errors that we're about to list out. The other under roll call, Blanca Topete was certainly present, but she attended virtually. So it should be a V there beside Blanca Topete. You go under roll call also, the last paragraph, it listed the last two folks before Elena Marquez, Craig Gibson and Haley Smith. Neither of those two are staff members, and they're listed as staff members. So we would remove them. And then if you go to the final page, we had it says it's the 7th line from the bottom before the motion. It says the executive director will be entitled to a total of 5 days of vacation leave per annum, and then it repeats 5 days of vacation leave per annum. So we would need to remove those repetition there. And the rest of it, Ms. Ramirez was really just part of the contract itself. So do I hear a motion to accept the minutes with those corrections?
So, Mr. Chairman.
A motion by Mr. Sanchez. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And that was Mr. Elder. So I'm going to pull the board. Mr. Sanchez,
Hey,
Mr. Elder,
Aye.
Mr. Limon,
Aye.
Ms. Ramirez,
Aye.
Salaices,
Aye.
Ms. Copete,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well, so that motion is unanimous. Then we move on to item F2, consideration and possible ratification of 4 budget amendments. Mr. Sanchez, you pulled this.
yes, I pulled that one, Mr. Chairman. The question is on page 22. It says, purpose for request, continue allocation of funds for the construction of the Nature Museum prepared by Ms. Benavides. Is this keeping in the budget allocation that was approved by the board? Or is this in addition to it?
Yes, sir. This is additional funding that we're coming to the board to cover additional costs for exhibit concept, to continue with the planning of the nature thing, and for Loya Wilkie, who is our architect. And so the board had initially approved the approximately 2.2 for ACO, which is the construction piece. And then exhibit concept is doing the exhibits, is planning on the exhibits for the nature theme. This is only to cover phase 2 for exhibit concept. And of course, the architect who oversees that the construction is going as planned.
So we're anticipating later on another addition to this request.
There is additional cost that exhibit concept will be incurring. However, we are planning on trying to cover those costs through Head Start. And so Ms. Rodriguez is working with an amendment that she will be bringing to the board soon to cover a portion of the additional cost and then another portion from the new grant, and then we have duration as well. So we have 3 different funding to help us cover these costs if approved by the Office of Head Start.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we need a motion and a second or any further discussion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion by Mr. Sanchez. Do I hear a second?
Jolie Mon, second.
And a second by Mr. Limon. Any further discussion? Going to poll the board. Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Elder,
Aye.
Mr. Limon,
Aye.
Ms. Ramirez,
Aye.
Mr. Lysis,
Aye.
Ms. Topete,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well, so motion is unanimous. Then move to information items on item G3, purchases as per resolution by the Board of Directors and the Purchasing Cooperative. You see new purchasing co-op contracts that are listed for your information. Also, the co-op contract extensions also listed. And of course, we are very thankful to our purchasing cooperative for all the fine work that continues to go on, even during the COVID pandemic. We have new interlocal agreements with Florida State College in Jacksonville, Florida, the Gallup McKinley County School District in Gallup, New Mexico. We have Jacksonville ISD in Jacksonville, Texas, and LaPorte ISD in LaPorte, Texas. Is there any other comment, questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sanchez.
I have 2 things just for clarification. On the first contract extension, what is the first one, reference 1772-35, division 8 and 10, construction specialty? What is division 8 and 10? What does that mean?
Becky,
Come to the mic.
if you can come,
Can you
can you
the
come to the
mic?
mic so they can hear you, please?
The division 8 and 10 is actually dealt with doors, locks, hardware. It's just in construction, they break down their divisions into separate areas.
Okay,
So this one is just specific for doors and locks and hardware.
okay. Don't go away.
Okay,
The other one was the energy services / Texas only.
yes, sir. That particular solicitation was done for solar energy options. Even though El Paso isn't deregulated, the rest of the state is. So this just gives some of our members opportunities to purchase solar energy from the vendor that's awarded, if they're interested.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thank you for responding.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So that brings us to item 4, which is our executive director's report.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna recognize our board with a special, what I hope is a special treat for you all. But before we go there, we do have John Alcalon, who will be sharing some information regarding the Nature Museum, as well as our Region 19 Conference Center.
And that's how we'll list it now on the agenda.
Chairman Zablosky, Dr. Eden, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to update you on our current projects. We'll start with the Nature Museum. We go to the next slide. So we've broken it down into 2 sections. ACO, our construction. We're currently working on earthwork, grading, additional density testing in the parking lot area. We are doing our gas line trenching, and we're just pending approval from one gas to actually tap into the gas line on Camp Street. Faven's Water has approved our sewer tie-in, so that's already been done. Thank you. And our containers for the Schematic, the storage, and the prelude have already been put in place. And I'll show you some photos in just a little bit. We are currently collaborating with Faven's Water, currently Loyal Wilking, and they made some changes. They asked us to make some changes on the design, so that put us back just a little bit, couple of weeks, but we kept working. Loyal Wilkie and Region 19 are still collaborating with one gas to get that tie-in. We are collaborating with El Paso Electric for the new service design. That design has been completed. We're just waiting for approval from El Paso Electric to release it. We are working on the audiovisual narratives with exhibit concepts. And what that is each of the sections is going to have a talking narrative, very similar to the Intelliseum, where you have different voices speaking to the children. So we had our first meeting last week, and it was just a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it with the instructional team. So a little bit of what we've also been working on. This is the color schematic that we're panning down and finalizing. So you can see you've got your front view, a couple of angles still from the front, but the colors really blend in with the nature theme that we're doing. This is a side view, a rear view. You've got 2 side views. The bottom one is the outdoor portion. The top right hand is your view off of the railroad track side. And then, of course, the rear towards the residential area. So those colors kind of blend in, again, with the front. I'll go back so you can just kind of look at how everything ties in really nicely. This is where we're at right now. We're doing the framing for the roof, for the interior. The double containers have already been stacked. In the background, you can see the other ones right here. So we've got our storage, we've got our prelude container, and then we've got our double container for the Schematic. And then our roof that we go now. These are about I guess about 5 days old. So there's been additional framing being done. That looks a little bit different right now. You had asked for a timeline on this project. So I brought my copy here so I can share it with you. I hope you can see it. So what we're looking at as far as project duration is it's broken down into several phases. Phase 1, the mobilization and excavation, that's been complete. Phase 2, steel reinforcement forming and metal roof framing. That's in progress right now, as you saw in the pictures. And our concrete flumes, sidewalks, that's the area where we're a little bit behind because we couldn't form anything until we got the trenching for the utilities done. So that portion is being worked on, but the other areas are continuing to move. The phase 3 exterior walls, interior walls, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire alarm, and interior finishes. That is March through March 22nd, with a closeout being around mid-April. Again, I put that little note there because of the delay in the water design. They might push it back closer towards the end of April for the construction. You have any questions on this?
So the overall project will be completed.
So the construction of the building, interior, everything is going to be April. And I'm going to say mid to late April. Now, what I don't have for you here, let's see what I can. Yeah, what I don't have on here yet because of what you were just talking about a little while ago with the interior. We continue to work with our budget revisions and exhibit concepts. Nothing is slowing down. However, until we get that final approval from the Office of Head Start, will I be able to give you an exact timeline on the exhibits themselves?
So what would we project? I mean, without holding you to it, but I mean, more or less, I mean, everybody's got a. How soon?
If I could, while Mr. Rodriguez walks forward, if I can share, we need to look at it from two sides, right? The building itself will be ready to go.
Right.
Which means that conceivably, we could use the building coming. And so that's one way of looking at it. Then, of course, then is the part that Ms. Rodriguez is going to share.
President, Mr. Sablaski, members of the board, so as Ms. Eubanks stated earlier, one of the things I do want to point out is that I had informed you that through a budget revision, we had purchased some instructional material to the tune of like $325,000 in preparation for the museum. And so it's material, instructional material and items that we will be able to utilize once the construction is over. So right now, currently, as part of one of the items that you will approve today, hopefully, is a budget revision in which we will submit for approval for additional instructional materials that we need. That's going to be, so we're going to break it down in 3 ways, this budget revision. Then in February, we're going to submit our duration budget revision and add another portion. And then through our 3rd year continuation application, we're also going to put the last portion again for the approval to the Office of Head Start. So we're going to embed it into our continuation application, whatever we weren't able to obtain with the budget revision I present today, the one in February, and then again for, and that would happen in July, once we get our funding. So if we
Get everything approved,
right, then we can foresee that children will be able to utilize the museum by early October, late September.
Next
of this upcoming school year. Yes.
That's good. Just wanted to have an idea of
yes,
what the timelines are. We appreciate that we're always looking for alternative means of funding, and as the funding is there and available, this 325 we already
Those have been, that we have the materials in a
They're
container,
stored.
just waiting in storage.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So-
Just
so-
waiting for us to set out, lay it out and utilize it as we need it.
So as we moving forward, as we do, certainly the 2.4 and, but then adding the 325 and as we're adding, of course, this is already, the 325 is already approved. And so everything is approved, we need to kind of start adding to our total. I know the construction is the 2.4, but certainly
Yes.
So the 325 is gonna be in addition. to-
yes, that's my point.
Yes, sir.
Just continue to add when it's been approved. Obviously, we can't add it if it hasn't been.
Yes, sir.
So to your point, and thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, very much
To your
so.
point, if for some reason, if we were to add everything we're asking our Head Start division to cover in Dallas, then the overall cost is going to be closer to the
800.
800. So we're at 2.3 more or less. So it'd be closer to $3 million, the overall project. So just kind of plant that seed because of course we're assuming, and you know what happens when you assume,
I don't
right?
wanna
So
assume anything.
and so we need to just have that ready because if for some reason something doesn't work, then we're going to be right back here having that conversation as to what steps we should take next. But I thank you for bringing that up because we obviously want to complete the project. And I'm excited that we lived up to the part of the building. The building will be done.
Yes.
But we can be creative in what we do with it and utilize it to instruct students. But obviously, if we get exhibit concepts to do what they are hoping to do, then of course that'll just enrich that whole project a little more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other comments on the Nature Museum progress? There being none, then we go to the Region 19 Conference Center progress report.
All right, moving along. We have poured concrete sequence number 10 on the 4th floor. Sequence 11 was already poured. That was just poured last week. Right now, we have one more sequence of 4. And as I was doing a site visit today, the ramp for 5 is already going up. So that project is moving along really good, really good. Days like today kind of slow it down a bit because they're limited with the rain, but it's really exciting and really moving along. One thing that you can't see because of the fencing is that DIR has started the grading of the roadway around the building. I'll show you some photos of that. Garrett Electric is already making sure that the conduits are in place for that roadway, as well as the plumbing. We want to make sure all the cleanouts are exposed so that nothing gets covered up accidentally. Plan B is installing new fiber from building B to building C. Those conduits had to be rerun because they were right in the middle of the roadway. Inspections. We've had several inspections from the Hades Mora in the city and from Apex, our material inspection company, and we have had no deficiencies found at this point. So really good news. Utility applications, Texas Gas is complete. El Paso Electric, again, we're just waiting for that. Actually, it's an easement approval that went to the city of the airport actually for approval because they've got to run some electrical here into the building, so they need an easement. And since the actual property owners of El Paso Airport, they're going through the approval process. And El Paso Water is 90% complete. So they're looking really good when it comes to utilities. The ESC 19 marketing team is working on the furniture spacing. We've gotten some layouts that we're looking at. I spoke to BTC last week and they have broken down the AV system for us in a more readable way. So we continue to work on that, as well as the kitchen and cafeteria equipment budget. As we, just to remind you that was an alternate. So we're looking at what that equipment might cost if we just purchase it through Region 19 co-op instead of BTC. A few photos are what we see right out the door here. This is the roadway between Building B where conference center. So they've cleared all that out, so it's looking really good. Along the south entrance between building A and the building, you can see that the rebar has been laid out. These are about 2 days old, so the rebar has already come out a lot farther. They'll actually pour tomorrow, the first portion of the roadway. This is just a clear shot of where you can see the framing going up, forming. And things are just moving along really well on that area. And this is the surface parking right to our north of this building. All that area that used to be Paso ISD would have their buses. That area has been cleared, and we're getting ready to start getting that area ready for asphalt. El Paso ISD was gracious enough to give us some space right outside this area for storage. So they've been great neighbors. Awesome. Of course, they moved our property for several years.
Yeah, one good turn deserves another.
Right.
But we're thankful.
Yes, absolutely. The timeline where we're at here. So what we're looking at is a completion date of September 8th. However, we do have a change request that I had talked to the board about a couple of months ago due to a civil delay that added about 14 days to that project. Now that hasn't been
A civil engineering delay.
yes, sir. Yes.
I mean, when I go civil legal.
Yes, when they wanted to add the storm capturing here, 50/50. So that is not added in there because they haven't said, yet we're behind in that schedule. And I also wanted to make a note on here just for transparency. We do have weather days that could be added to the project. And we are evaluating some structural, possible structural delays that we had early on the second floor. We were just working through the post-tension cabling. So there was a little bit of a delay there. Again, we don't know what the impact is going to be on the full project, but what we're looking at now is probably mid to late September. And if there's any changes, then we'll definitely bring that to the board. And that is my presentation for the conference center. I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board regarding the Region 19 Conference Center?
Yes,
Mr.
Chair.
Sanchez.
Could we have a copy of this presentation just to stay?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, I had asked Elena to wait for the presentation so that he can share the information and then go ahead and send it out to everybody. So
Thank you.
Okay.
she will do it.
And on the timelines, it's really just for information, just so we have a information that we know when, more or less. Obviously, like you say, it can rain, it could still snow, and those kinds of things. The other issues we faced. Hopefully, we don't run into any more issues. And hey, they might even move faster because we are having a mild winter, so it might move faster given the weather holds. But you never know.
Right.
But at least it's just a projected dates is what we get. And we appreciate your reports. I live in Fabens and I see some of that already going up, and actually gas company hit a water line and the water company had to work almost 24 hours to fix the water line.
Glad it wasn't us.
It was the gas company. So you're right. It would have. Okay, how much is that going to cost?
There's a lot out there that you just don't know because the drawings are hard to find. So we've got to be very careful when we're trenching, even on the school property.
Yes, especially
Yes.
one of the first high schools out there, actually the two-story building that you see, and so we're of course the Head Start building is there also. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So had we don't forget that Ms. Becker came in here.
Yes.
Apologies.
I think we made
Wish to
note.
apologize. I got the time wrong. And then my sister called me, so I was sitting out in the parking lot for half an hour.
And we sang happy birthday and everything, but you weren't even here.
That's the way I like
It happens
it.
to be
We
Ms.
already
Becker's
ate the
birthday.
Which is why my sister called me.
But we're gonna celebrate here in a minute. And so, anything further on the conference center?
No, just wanna, again, thank our team that been working on this.
Yes.
I know that not only has John been working diligently with this, Rebecca has too, but also the Angie and her team, the technology department, has worked very diligently on this. So I appreciate the hard work. So
Also, so we paid out almost $2 million more in the construction.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's quite, the conference centers now stands out dramatically from Airway in Montana. People are like, oh, okay, what's going on over there? if they haven't driven on Airway before. So it when I saw it today, I was amazed at the 30-day advancement in the construction. Yes, I mean, it was amazing, very amazing. So thank you all, the entire staff, because I know it's a collaborative effort. I mean, you mentioned even getting together for the furnishings and all of that, and certainly planning on the financial side as well. So thank you all for all you do. We appreciate you.
And if I could just add to that as well, we had our meeting this past Friday with our staff, and it went very well. I was very pleased. And I recognize various departments, but I wanted to take an opportunity because I ran out of time, truthfully. And but I wanted to recognize the technology department for what they've been doing during this time of the pandemic, and in setting us up, having us work with the virtual board meetings, not to include every virtual meeting that we have throughout our service center. So I know that there's a lot of effort and time that goes into it. We just, as far as I'm concerned, I know my meeting starts at a certain time. I press a button and voila, everyone's there. But there's some work that has to be done behind the scenes. So I appreciate Angie and her team. So please make sure you let them know, and Jose and everyone else that's in there. Okay, so thank you guys.
But just to add to that, I mean, I know that here at the board table, we depend heavily on technology, and these folks are always here ready to help us and guide us, and we don't know what button we pushed and made a mistake, and here they come and fix it rapidly, and we're just glad for that. But moreover, the fact that we can do this, which is initially, it was awkward. And now, unfortunately, I mean, or maybe fortunately, thanks to them, it's more seamless than what it was at the beginning. I noticed my anxiety level is way down. And I think that's because Jose's so smooth at the controls. And so we just thank you all for what you do.
But also Sandra as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is that why you were talking to yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So now for the highlight of my report is the Board of Directors recognition. And so I'm glad that Ms. Kathy Becker made it here. But
Timing is everything.
Time is everything. So my understanding today's your birthday?
Yeah, it actually is.
So
I'm a whole year older.
So you guys, we can do one of two things. If you all would like to join us in singing the whole version of Happy Birthday, the song, or we could do the short version. Which one would you prefer? It's your birthday.
Let's do the full version.
The full version?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we can sing the Macarena.
Well, then.
I'm just kidding. I don't have to say.
So let's sing Happy Birthday to Happy birthday
To you.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patsy. Happy birthday to you.
Birthday Yay, Sapo Verde.
That was really awkward with the virtual and the live, but it happened.
Thank you very much. This is dessert tonight.
You thought you were gonna share it here.
Well, we could probably each. share it. I would
Just
if you
kidding.
want.
Bite it and pass it. So,
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sure
you
that that's the best way to avoid COVID.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So happy birthday.
That's it. Happy birthday.
So for the rest of the board, to include Ms. Becker, we do have a little something for you all. Obviously, those of you who are not here with us, it'll come your way. But I'm gonna ask Ms. Rodriguez and John, and if you need some other helpers, we can get a few others.
Good, you get picked too.
Elsa is willing. And
Thank you, sir.
while they're passing them out, I will tell you that, the best gifts are those that are related to children in some capacity or other. So we wanna share that with you, but before we open up the gifts, we do have a video. So as soon as they're finished passing out the goodies, Jose, if you don't mind.
Can we have the leftover?
Education Service Center Region 19 is honored to commemorate our outstanding Board of Directors for their dedication and service. And our community agrees. They've shared their love, likes, and comments in appreciation of the Board of Directors. Thank you, ESC 19 Board of Directors. You are greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Directors.
That was great.
So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
for everything you do. I was gonna ask if Mr. Sablasio, you don't mind opening up yours, and so the rest of the board members can see what they'll be getting. And I didn't get to see the final product, so it's kind of on the computer.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
I need a
Oh, nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you focus in on the pictures?
Thank you.
Yes. Does mine have David Zablaski's picture too?
You want an autograph?
Yes, I'm gonna need it signed, please.
Have fun with David's picture or your
Or
own?
your own.
Well, I don't know.
So, but definitely on behalf of the Education Service Center Region 19 staff and all the employees that are out at the Head Start centers and throughout, our region. We appreciate you all and we thank you all for everything you do. It's one of those things where I can confidently say that without your support and the way it's been, we wouldn't be where we're at. It's been a phenomenal partnership, and we appreciate everything you do for us, and we wouldn't want anybody else doing it for us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Any comments from the board? Already done. On behalf of the board, then we'd like to thank you all for several of us have served on other boards that have not been always as pleasant as we have here. We just had the first time in 21 years where we voted something down, and it was naming the Region 19 Conference Center. It was very healthy. It was nothing, no animosities, and so it's an amazing board. Each one of the members is a collaborative member of the board, is an active member of the board, is a participatory member of the board. Everyone does their homework. I'm speaking to everyone so that everyone knows that we're blessed to be on the board at Region 19. And that's because of you all. I mean, from the executive director to anyone and everyone that we meet in the hallways, and sometimes I live in Vegas, as I mentioned, and I'm driving down the road and there's a Head Start bus driving around, and they'll honk and wave, and so everyone, it makes it worth the time. It's a beautiful time. I had a time, and I've told Dr. Hida before, where I thought that I was done. It was time for me to get off the board, and I see the fire in everyone out there. I see the energy that everyone has. It doesn't matter who it is, and it's just makes it. It transfers over to the board. We're able to do, to come and spend the time that we do, and review the agendas beforehand, and do our homework, etc. Attend the conferences now virtually as we need to, but to stay informed and provide the support that is required and necessary, required by law, and necessary that I mean, I don't believe that there's a education service center or agency. And I say agency because nationally that's what they're called, education service agency. I would take you all and say you're the best. No matter whether it's in the state of Washington or New York or Florida, California, it does not matter where, and anywhere in between. I've attended a lot of their conferences. I just did one on AESA, and actually Pat Ramirez, you may remember, was recognized, for all of the activities that she performed through the virtual conference. So, we know what we have, and that's why we stay. I've got a lot more gray hair than I did when I started, but it's not because of you. It's just because of life. So we thank you on behalf of the board that we're just blessed to be a part of the many successes that you all are putting forth. And we thank you, sir, for the fine work that you and everyone under your guidance accomplishes. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Item 5.
So we do have a couple of announcements. As I mentioned last month, we have the 23rd annual professional conference. I didn't mention the actual conference, so I'm formally doing that now, but I did mention that much like every other conference that we put on, we had to go virtual. And I was giving kudos to Elena for taking on that challenge and doing it that way. Maybe she was thinking that she wouldn't have to, but I kind of said, you can do this. And so she was voluntold. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure she wanted to do it because that's just in her nature to once she's on to something, she wants to see it through. So I appreciate you doing that. I'm sure there's others helping you as well. And, we look forward to that. So the conference itself will take place February 25th, and it's the 23rd annual professional conference, paraprofessional conference. And so there is a flyer, and I'm sure you all will, have received that as well. The other one is the National School Board Association, and it's official. It's a virtual conference, and it will take place April 8th through the 10th. And so if you want to be registered for that one, by all means, we'll do that, and we'll make sure that you're set to be part of that particular conference. Again, that's April 8th through the 10th of this year.
I think I've already signed up for both of these conferences. Certainly, I think I shared with Ms. Elena that I was interested in the paraprofessionals in education. The 23rd annual, wow, that's amazing. And we appreciate that you do it. It's always energy filled. It's going to be different, virtual, but I'm sure it's going to be that fantastic, and I certainly appreciate it. And I also signed up for the NSBA already. So board members, if you're interested, please communicate your interest so that they can sign you up. Especially the NSBA. I think that earlier we signed up there, we may have some savings from signing up early if we do so. So thank you for that. And that concludes your report.
Yes, sir.
And we move to our Head Start Policy Council meetings on page 54. Ms. Rodriguez.
Chairman, Mr. Sablaski, Dr. Aguirre, members of the board, one more time, thank you so much for your support and of course your dedication to all of us. Cannot do the kinds of things that we do, right?
Yes.
So our next policy council meetings will be, the next one will be held next week on Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021 at 4 p.m. We invite you to join us virtually. And we thank in advance the board members that have been able to join us. And then the next meeting in February will be held on the 23rd, and then in March, the 30th. Okay? So it's the 26th, February the 23rd, and March 30th at 4 p.m.
And then we move on then to item 7, which is the Head Start Director Report on page 55.
Yes, thank you. So we are in our 7th month of operation of our 2nd year. And so the change or what I wanted to share with you in regards to funding, I had shared with you last month that we had received all of our duration funding that was released. And so for all 10 facility applications. And so that came into the tune of $6,518,628 that has been released for us to renovate or construct some of our buildings within our program. And so that is up and running. Mr. Alarcon, on top of the Nature Museum, on top of the conference center, has 10 of these major projects that are taking place throughout our program. So very, appreciative of all of his work.
Yes.
And, all that he gets done. So thank you, Mr. Alarcon.
Yes.
And so these projects will allow us to have additional classrooms to provide additional full day services when we go back to in-person services. Okay. Our child and adult care food program reimbursement is at the anticipated, the same anticipated amount. We might see a little bit of a different number only because there were slight decreases at the very beginning of the school year. Just wanted to share that with you. But because we've started home deliveries, those meals, those numbers are picking up. Okay. In regards to our service area and populations, we continue to provide remote services, meals, instructional materials, all being provided curbside. We continue to provide service to one child at Options Center. Everyone else is providing remote services. Under the next page, number 2, program data, activities, and milestones. Ms. Eubank shortly will present the financial report and also highlight any type of credit card expenditures for Head Start or Early Head Start. In regards to the program summaries, you're going to find those as always under Appendix A, and they will reflect all the activities that were implemented during the month of December. In regards to program enrollment and attendance, that information you're going to find under Appendix B of this report. And so for Early Head Start enrollment, the data is going to reflect that we provided services to 387 infants and toddlers, which indicates we have 5 slots available, and that's for children that are going to be transitioning. And then for Head Start enrollment, we have we've serviced 2,683 students and families for the month of December, and we have currently 1,300 slots currently available. I failed to mention the attendance for Early Head Start is at 99% of children connecting virtually to instruction. And then for preschool, it's 96% of our students, because again, we are taking attendance to keep that data, just in case the Office of Head Start were to require it from us. I also want to report to you that we also have transitioned over to the percentage of families that could qualify for a program, because we do have quite a waiting list, so that these numbers, so that these slots that are open can close up. And so we're now reaching out to our families that were in the criteria between 100 and the 130%. Okay, so that we can fill up those slots. I also wanted to share with you the monthly meal reports. You're going to find it under Appendix B as well. And we continue to provide grab-and-go meals. For December, we distributed 3,162 for Early Head Start. And then for Head Start, we distributed 13,158. So you see those numbers, you know, you're going to see that on the graph too, that those numbers have increased. But again, thanks to Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Olivine, the transportation team, because we're doing deliveries to our Head Start homes that don't have transportation. These numbers do include breakfast and lunch. And then if you recall, CACFP gave us a waiver to where we could give families, for example, on Mondays, we give them the Monday and Tuesday meal. On Wednesdays, we give them the Wednesday and Thursday meal. Okay. And then on Friday, just the Friday meal. So we're able to do that. And so, of course, you know, that, you know, gives our families those meals that they so very much depend on, as you have heard from Mr. Sanchez, and expressing their gratitude for having those meals. Absolutely. In regards to challenges, changes, and just informational items, I did want to share with you that the Office of Head Start is now requesting that we do a center status report monthly. They have aligned it to the, you know, how we report enrollment on a monthly basis. Well, now they want to know what the status is in regards to our centers. Are we providing remote services, virtual services? So this is data that they're gathering from all Head Start programs across the nation. And now we're doing it, if you would, you know, I guess it's more official because it's through the Head Start enterprise. As before, it was just Ms. Cervera emailing me, and I would fill out the information and submit it as every other director would. Well, now they're having us do it through the Head Start enterprise to kind of formalize that and align it to the enrollment. And so the information includes our funded enrollment, our center capacity, the attendance, which is great because they'll see how, you know, the children are logging into instructional services virtually. And then also if we have any type of combination of in-person or virtual services, which we don't at this time, okay? And then we did resume our activities on January the 4th when everybody came back. They came back to training, and then we started remote services again at the centers. And also wanted to share with you, our teachers have transitioned back into the classroom, and some of them are very grateful as they were, you know, tired of being at home, so they're very grateful. But very happy. On Tuesday, the 19th, oh, there you go. Without knowing, I advanced to that information. So, you know, again, we're taking, ensuring that we practice social distancing and all safety protocols to ensure that everybody is kept safe. That will conclude my director's report.
Any questions or comments regarding the Head Start Director's Report? Thank you very much for all that you do, especially now. Like you say, the feeding of these children is imperative. We certainly appreciate that we're now doing home delivery to them. So that's imperative. We continue. So we move to item H, and our discussion item in our finance report, page 63 is our memorandum, I believe.
Good afternoon, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
On page 64, the board will find our operating budget to actual report. This is for 4 months into our fiscal year ending December 31st. And so highlighted is the items that I'm going to cover. For total revenues, actual collected is 4.1 million. When you compare to year-to-date budget, we should be at 3.3. And so we have a positive variance in revenue collected of $785,000. Total expenditures, actual 2.6 million. Compared to budget, we would have been at 3.4. We again have a positive variance of $793,000, which means that we expended less than projected. Highlighted in blue is the net change in fund balance in operation. This is before construction cost. And so we have approximately net income of $1.496 million. When you take into account construction of the nature sim, what we've expended to date has been approximately $228,000. When you reduce that, it gives us a net change of 1.2 million. That is going into our fund balance, increasing it to $10.1 million for our general operating budget. Of course, we will increase the budget by those $200,000 that we all just approved for those additional costs that we did. Next page provides the board our budget by function as we're required to bring to you by TA. And highlighted is where we expend most of our funding, of course, in professional development and our administrative costs for operating the service center and providing these services, support services to all of our departments. Next report is the Region 19 Conference Center construction costs for the period through December 31st. And this is a cumulative report. And so we do total revenue sources that we have secured is 36.9 million. Total expenditures to date, 12.2 million, and leaves us a fund balance of 24.7 million. That 24.7 million includes the loan. Okay. Our next report is our Head Start, our extended grant that was awarded in fiscal year 2019 and was extended. And for this, we have collected 38.7 million, and we have expended 38.7 million. So we are due about $13,000. Funds available that have not been obligated, 7.6 million. So we have to date obligated about 3.2. Head Start is continuing, has submitted additional facility applications for approval, and as we get those approvals, we encumber for these. Our next report is our current Head Start grant, which is our fiscal year 2021. We have collected 18.2 million. expended 20.5, and so our granting agency owes us 2.3 million. This was subsidized, of course, by our current operating fund balance until we get reimbursed. Encumbrances 15.6 million, and so we have remaining funds of 11 million that we need to expend and encumber. Next report is our governmental fund, our expenditure and net income report, and this provides a snap picture of what's considered governmental for our entity, which includes our grants, our capital project, and our general fund. And so the first column we've gone through, Head Start we've gone through. The debt service fund, this column just shows what we've incurred this current fiscal year. The other one was on a cumulative basis. This one just tells us that for this fiscal year, we have expended about $4.1 million as of December. And then other funds are all of our other grants. And so we've collected 2.4 million. We have expended 3.5. And so we are due about $1 million. And of course, that 1 million was covered by our operating fund. So I just want to make note that the board is aware that we do cover that upfront, and then we get reimbursed. The next report shows our balance sheet for our governmental funds, and I've highlighted the total as an agency. And so our total assets is 26.4 million. Our total liabilities 7.8 million, and then total fund balance is 18.6. Proprietary fund, the next report. This report shows our enterprise fund and our internal service fund. And so our enterprise funds consist of our cyber cafe that is not operational right now, our allied states, and of course our print shop. And so combined for our enterprise funds, we have collected $870,000, and expenditures are at 334. Net income close to $536,000, increasing our fund balance to 2.8 million for our enterprise fund. For our internal service funds, we have collected 521,000. We've expended 619,000, close to $620,000. And we do have a net loss. And of course, what we've mentioned to the board, this is due to prepaid insurance costs, and we collect these throughout the year. Our fund balance for internal service funds is $2.6 million. Our balance sheet for these two funds, we have total assets for our enterprise fund of 2.8 and 3.1 for our internal service fund. Liabilities, we have $43,000 for enterprise and $526,000 for our internal service fund. And then following is a detailed description of what makes up the internal service funds and the enterprise funds. And of course, credit card activity, I have to mention that it is included here. And this concludes the finance report.
Thank you once again for the fine work there. Any other questions or comments from the board? There being none, again, thank you for the thorough report, and certainly that we stay up on collecting those that we've had to cover, right? But thank you for sharing that information with the board. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That moves us to action items. We, of course, have already taken care of item number 9. So we move to item number 10, consideration and possible approval for ESC Region 19 to enter into a lease agreement for mailing equipment contingent upon Form 1295 approval. You find that on page 82.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve with a question.
We have a motion. We hear a second.
Second.
There's a second by John Elder, and Mr. Sanchez has a question before we vote.
Yes, I've noticed that lately on approvals that are coming forward to us, they're calling upon contingent on Form 1295. I think I saw it at a previous board meeting, but it finally caught my eye and I wanted to know what, I think Dr. You had told us
Yes.
something about it. If you could
Yes.
just briefly
I'll give you,
enlighten me what it is. What's the difference with that in Edgar? Okay.
okay. So since she's here, I'll go ahead and ask Becky. I was gonna do well until you added the extra part. Yes, yes.
Buddy.
Edgar and I don't get along.
Oh,
so-
no wonder, okay. You know, I think you mentioned that.
Mr. Zabowski, members of the board, Dr. Giddens. The reason for the 1295 statement is there was a law passed. It said anything that comes before the board has to have a form filled in by the Texas Education Commission. So that the TEC requires that that form be filled out. I can't have that form filled out until the board approves it, but the board has to approve it, the form has to be filled out. So it's kind of a catch-22, so we throw that contingent in there,
Oh,
just in case there's some reason that
We don't approve.
whatever motion you make, the person doesn't fill the form out, then we would come back to you and say, hey, you know what, this didn't happen.
so it's kind of a new law you said that came in some time ago?
It did, maybe, gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was.
Okay.
But I misspoke, it's the Texas Ethics Commission, not Education.
Oh, okay,
Sorry, I
okay.
misspoke enough. But it's just an online form that we have to go and acknowledge. They say, hey,
Mhm.
you're spending money on this, and we say, yeah, that's true. Our board approved that. With that and Edgar, it's two totally separate things.
Mhm.
The Edgar requirements get into purchasing rules and regulations, accounting rules and regulations. It doesn't have anything to do with the
With
1295.
this one.
Mhm.
Okay,
So it's-
okay, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board regarding item 10? Any comments? There being none, we do have a motion in a second, so I'm going to poll the board. Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Elder,
Aye.
Mr. Limon,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Mr. Lysis,
Aye.
Mr. Pete,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well, so it passes unanimously. We move to item 11. Consideration and possible approval for ESC Region 19 to enter into a lease agreement for technology, hardware, equipment contingent upon Form 1295 approval.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Sanchez. Do I hear a second?
Joe Limon, second.
Willie Moon, second. Any discussion? There being none, I'm going to poll the board. Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Elder,
Aye.
Limon,
Aye.
Ms. Ramirez,
Aye.
Mr. Lysis,
Aye.
Mr. Pete,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Item number 12 is consideration and possible adoption of resolution to extend COVID-19 leave benefits for employees. You find that on page 90.
Just a quick overview of what we're asking. Where we were before, because of pandemic, is the federal government had extended the opportunity to give individuals, employees time off that would not be held against their leave bucket. And so that ended in December. And so what we're requesting, because pandemic is not over, is the opportunity to extend it, but we would then cover those days. That's just to make sure that our employees feel the confidence in us, that we're still supporting their needs. But we did make a few changes to what the law was before, and that is that we're focusing specifically on our employees and their immediate families, and not necessarily their extended families, parents and such. But we are focusing on the immediate family and themselves. Also, at this point we're asking it to go through the end of May, as opposed to what others might be doing, which is to the end of the fiscal year. And the reason we're doing that is that it gives us an opportunity to revisit it. If we feel that in May, we're still in need of that, we'll by all means come back to the board and ask and request for an extension. But I believe that this will give us an opportunity to make sure we serve our employees well, and it also will give us an opportunity to come in May if for some, and God, I hope it doesn't happen, but if we have to extend it in a different way, that we can do that then.
And there is a resolution that is on page 91, if you all are there. It says, whereas in April 2020, the federal government implemented the Family First Coronavirus Act, FFCRA, requiring, among other matters, employers, including Education Service Center Region 19, ESC 19, to provide qualified employees with up to 80 hours of paid sick leave for certain specified reasons. Whereas the entitlement of ESC 19 employees up to 80 hours of paid leave under the provisions of the FFCRA expired December 31, 2020, and the Board of Directors of the ESC, the board, finds that a need still exists to provide certain additional forms of paid leave to qualified employees for certain specified reasons as set forth below. Whereas the Board of Directors is authorized by Texas Education Code Section 8.121 to expend funds for the provision of core services designed to improve student and school district performance or for the payment of necessary administrative and operational expenses of the center related to the provision of those services. Whereas the board finds that additional paid leave resulting from the pandemic is necessary and that a public purpose exists in providing such additional leave to protect the health and safety of its staff and community served and to continue the provision of said core services to its member public and open enrollment charter districts. Whereas the board seeks to retain its employees, reduce turnover, increase morale, help employees focus on work-related matters while at work, and ensure the facilities are as safe and healthy as possible, and finds that an additional public purpose exists for that reason, it is therefore resolved that in addition to the leave granted in policy DEC local, the board grants a total of up to 10 days of paid leave through May 31, 2021 of the 2021 fiscal year at an employee's regular rate of pay, except as stated below, for all employees who otherwise would have qualified for leave under the FFCRA for the following specified reasons. 1, those specified by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to COVID-19. 2, those experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking medical diagnosis. And finally, 3, those caring for an immediate family member in quarantine or isolation as described in the ESC's current policy. Further resolved that in lieu of providing leave under this resolution, the ESC may require an employee to telework in the sole discretion of the executive director or his designee, and an employee who refuses to so telework is not entitled to these additional leave benefits. Further resolved that certain leave was covered under the FFCRA, but is not so mentioned above. The ESC is not providing the additional paid leave for that FFCRA reason, except as may be required by law. Further resolved that an employee who used all available leave up to 80 hours under the emergency paid leave provisions of the FFCRA is not entitled to additional leave under this resolution, and an employee who used partial available leave under the emergency paid sick leave provisions of the FFCRA is only entitled to leave up to a total of up to 80 hours, including any leave previously used under the FFCRA. In addition, once any employee reaches 10 days of paid leave under the FFCRA and this resolution, a total of 10 days, by May 31, 2021 of the 2021 fiscal year, the employee must use his or her own leave days. Further resolved that this resolution expires and is no longer in effect without any further action by the board at the earlier of the following. 1, the extension of the FFCRA or a substantially similar amendment thereto, or 2, May 31, 2021 of the 2021 fiscal year. The board may otherwise terminate this resolution by board action at any time. Further resolved that the board authorizes the executive director to interpret and implement this resolution in his sole discretion. Certificate for resolutions, I hereby certify that the foregoing resolution was presented to the Board of Directors of Education Service Center Region 19 during the meeting held On January 21, 2021, a quorum of the Board of Directors being then present, it was then duly moved and seconded that the resolution be, and we still have to adopt the resolution, and such resolution was then adopted according to the following vote. So having said all of that, do I hear a motion from anyone?
Joe Limon, move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Joe Limon to approve and Fred Sanchez. Any further discussion?
Did you want to say something? He's asking if Mr. Valle had anything to add in this, or?
Is there anything further?
No.
There. So we have a motion and a second, so I'm going to poll the board. Mr. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Elder.
Aye.
Mr. Limon.
Aye.
Ms. Ramirez.
Aye.
Ms. Salaices.
Aye.
Ms. Popete.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so it was unanimous.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I may, a question to our director. Do the school districts within the region doing the same thing that we are?
Some are, not all of them. Some unfortunately can't afford to take on the extra expense. So I don't want to say which ones are and which ones aren't, but the fact is that the majority are attempting it. And earlier I said that some have it to the end, some have it all the way to I believe it's August 31st. We're the ones that are asking to make, but it's not for fiscal reasons. It's more about doing what's right and being able to come back if we need to extend it. That's our rationale behind doing it.
So we're paying our employees up front, and then we'll send in a letter to get reimbursed by this agency?
No longer will we be reimbursed. That's not happening anymore. And in fact, the matter is the ones that we did do, we're in the process of trying to get reimbursed, but that hasn't happened either. So we're not expecting that. We're just going to make sure that we continue with the trend. So to put it bluntly, if we can get, well, let me back up. What we're proposing, we won't be getting reimbursed in any way. But what was done prior, we will reach out with the hopes of getting our funding back, but we definitely aren't counting on that if it doesn't happen.
Well, what about the new administration that just came in yesterday? They're saying that they're going to put, I'm going to mention $31 billion into schools. That doesn't apply to this, or we have no religion?
Until we hear otherwise. And I believe it's part of the actual resolution that if there is a change in law, then we would definitely go after it. But if Sonia or David want to say something on that effect.
Mrs. Leslie, couple of things. As of last month, 3 of the districts were already for sure doing the same thing that we're doing on presenting resolution to their boards, and the other ones, many of them were going to be presenting one to them. And in addition to that, service centers around the state have already, many of the service centers are also doing the same thing. So it's something that was suggested or posed in a meeting, and said, are you all doing this? And so inquiries for those. We had some individuals, like fortunately many of us in this room have been healthy, and we didn't use the FFCRA the first half of the year or since March. But then there may be some individuals that we have had since January that are now having to use COVID leave. And as of today, I know we went back to the red numbers in the local area, and so this would help those individuals that didn't have to leave prior, and now they have the opportunity to not feel like they have to go to work because of
Right.
not having leave, or, and then the potential is they could maybe not tell their supervisor and then come to work sick and then cause a spread. So this helps us to say, be honest with us, tell us you're sick and stay home and get well. And then gives us that opportunity to do that. And then in the last part of the resolution it does say that if the law gets either amended or a new law similar to it gets put into place, then we would take a look at those parameters and apply them as necessary. And there has been some discussion by the new administration, but nothing is set in stone yet. They went into their administration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
That moves us to item J, Head Start Governance Action Items. J13, consideration of possible approval of governing action items for the Head Start program. We have 2 action items that we need to take today. One is a strategic plan and timeline for the year 3 continuation grant application and budget. And the other item is 2021 budget revision, year 2 grant application and budget. And again, letting the board know ahead of time that we're going to need 2 motions there. Ms. Rodriguez.
Mr. Sablasky, and the members of the board, and again, happy birthday, Ms. Becker. The first item is the timeline, and this document really is an outline that has the timeline and the key participants that need to be involved in regards to our year 3 grant continuation application and budget. And so for the board members, part of the program self-assessment plan and training was provided to you in December. And today, you hopefully will approve this plan so that we can move forward. The self-assessment was also presented to Policy Council as they, work with you to govern that, together you govern our program. So they too had to receive the self-assessment plan and training. And this strategic plan will also be presented to them for approval. Once we have put together our grant application, we will bring it to you for final approval. And before we do that, we will have the Policy Council provide us input into our program goals, as well as our budget for year 3. Once that has happened in February, then we will present the final application to both yourselves and the Policy Council. We will also obtain information and input from our community stakeholders. For example, those members that from the community that participate in our Health Services Advisory Committee. We will obtain input from them, as well as those that we work with in regards to the Transition Advisory Committee, where we work with children that districts as children will transition into a school district. And then in regards to internally, I will work with the directors. We will also work with center managers and program managers and review and revise our goals, objectives, our action plans to make sure that they align with our application, as well as integrate into all of this our results from the program self-assessment that we will implement, as well as the summary that was done for the community needs assessment, just to ensure that all that information is embedded into our application. And then finally, we will submit for approval on April the 1st to OHS, and then implement services beginning July 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2020. And then, of course, your shared governance responsibilities will also be within that time frame once it's approved.
Any questions? There's a recommendation of the administration that the strategic plan and timeline for the year 3 continuation grant application and budget be approved. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Fred Sanchez. Do I hear a second?
Jolie, 1 second.
Jolie, 1 second. Any discussion? We're going to pull the board. Mr. Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. Elder.
Aye.
Limon.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Lices.
Aye.
Ms. Copete.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so it's unanimous. So we go on to the second item, which is the 2021 budget revision, year 2 grant application budget.
Yes, sir. So as previously discussed, for you, our first budget revision that will encompass the funding for our year 2 2021. And so we want to be able to, with your approval, redistribute this funding. We will have funding that is going to become available from our personnel category, friendship benefits, and travel, things that we have not yet, that we allocated for, but due to the pandemic are not going to be utilizing. So we want to be able to take this funding and redistribute, because we do have a programmatic priority list that we have developed, the directors and I, and the different needs that we have within our program. Of course, the Nature Museum being one of our priorities. And so we're approximately looking at a 1.8 million funding that we will need to redistribute.
Any questions or comments regarding this request for budget revision? There being none, there's a recommendation of the administration that the 2021 budget revision year 2 grant application and budget be approved. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Fred Sanchez. Do I hear a second?
Joe Limon, second.
Joe Limon, second. Any discussion? Any discussion? There being none, I'm going to poll the board. Fred Sanchez.
Aye.
John Elder.
Aye.
Joe Limon.
Aye.
Lisa Ramirez.
Aye.
Lidia Salaices.
Aye.
Blanca Topete.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so it's unanimous vote. Thank you. Appreciate all the work you do for us, our kids. That's it. We do not have a closed session. So we move to N, comments and requests for information from the Board of Directors. Any comments or any requests for information from the Board of Directors? Let me say before anyone, if I may take the personal privilege to do so, that my term for the chair of the board is up at the end of May. So by June, we'll have new officers. I do not qualify to be the chair for the organization, and this is my second year. By policy, I cannot serve an additional consecutive term. So I offer that information so that anyone and everyone who may be interested in either this position or the vice chair, we will reorganize in May, the vice chair or the secretary position. Perhaps this might be even a time to say I'm interested, or so that everyone is aware that there's interest in those positions. So I leave that with you all for that, just as a point of information. Any other comments from the board? There being none, then our next meeting will be February the 18th, 2021, at 3 p.m. right here in the Marshall St. John boardroom. And so we thank everyone for being here. We appreciate the gracious gift. I was on a diet until now. I changed my mind really quickly. But anyway, thank you all for the fine gift. This is really special, and so thank you for that. I don't know who did the design of it. I guess technology people, right?
No, actually, there's a Head Start.
Head Start did that. Wow, that's pretty nice. Thank you all very much for that. That's a special one right there. Guaranteed. So with that said, then our meeting stands adjourned at 4:05 p.m.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you all.
Thank you.